Hi, welcome everyone to another episode of Let's Talk Special Economic Zones. I'm your host Ainsley Brown, and in today's episode, we're going to talk about, or this is a continuation of a previous episode, about sandboxes and SEZs. This time, we're going to place a sandbox inside of the sandbox. So before we go any further, as I usually do, I give a definition of special economic zones. And these are specially designated areas whereby specific trade rules, specific commercial investment rules apply, designated by a government to attract investment, whether local or foreign investment, to that designated area. Right? It's a geographic space. There are different types of incentives, whether fiscal, financial, or non-fiscal. Fiscal are the tax breaks. The financial is actual money being given by governments, and non-fiscal, which are also non-financial, I guess, are in essence ease in government service. How quick certain services can be done. For the most part, there's other types of non-fiscal incentives that can work, or collaborations with the private sector. But for the most part, it's how do you use regulation as a means of improving business and easing the ease of doing business kind of thing. So before we so now I should add, so what exactly is a sandbox? Well, a zone is a sandbox in many ways for economic policy. It's an area where experimentation can take place. Without endangering the wider system. In this case, it would be the wider economy. So you can test certain policies. So, for example, Dubai would have tested in the zone foreign ownership. So it's gone and done 100% foreign ownership in the zone, whereas in a domestic territory, you needed to have a Emirati partner. Now they've ended that because it's proven to work. And proven not to endanger the wider economy. So now in the rest of the economy, and the zones, you now can have both 100% foreign ownership in many sectors and industries. So sandboxes are areas where you can do experimentation without endangering the wider framework in which you're being placed. So now in terms of zones, although zones are the sandbox for the wider economy, there are now we have to start thinking about being more innovative. So how do you put a sandbox inside that sandbox? And there are different ways to do it. And excuse me, I'm going to look into my write-up bit because I have some notes here that I developed. So firstly, you're going to have to define the scope and purpose of the sandbox. What exactly is it going to do, right? Especially in the zone context. Is it geared towards startups and innovative enterprises to roll out new products and services, and under what kind of regulatory conditions? You need regulatory flexibility. That's the second thing, right? So you're going to because zones and zones make an ideal environment for this, because zones typically already have regulatory flexibility for the most part. Not in everything, but in some contexts, the zones are almost completely separate from the regular economy. In other instances, there is that overlap in terms of, say, for example, there's one customs authority that governs both the zone and the domestic economy. However, how they apply the rules may differ because it is a zone. For one instance is the duty-free incentive that is applied, provided inputs, raw materials, and so forth go into the zone and remain in the zone. So you're going to have some level of regulatory flexibility to provide certain, at least temporary relief that is, whether from a regulatory perspective, not just incentives, that is tailor-made for that particular situation. Then when you roll it out now, you're going to need the rollout of the sandbox you're going to need different regulatory bodies typically, because you're going to come up or butt up against other bodies, and you're going to need a team of experts to come together to assess the proposal. What is the person bringing to the sandbox? How will this be beneficial to us? Is this something that we even really want to take on? Is it within scope of what we have designed? If those things are no, then of course you say no. But if it is a yes, then you assess it, and of course in that assessment means evaluating risks, and evaluating what's the measure of success, and then starting to think, okay, so if this is successful, how do we roll it out to be a general thing, and putting up the necessary guardrails so that things don't get out of hand, or it endangers the wider the zone framework and then the wider economic framework of the country. Then of course, you having granted permission to proceed, you test and evaluate. So you're going to be working with those other regulators to ensure that, hey, if this touches on banking, the central bank, what's going on here? If it touches on the stock market, if it so you have the regulatory authority that deals with stocks. If it touches on certain things to do with food, right, or electronic transactions, the various regulatory bodies come together and say, okay, yes, this is working, this is not working, let's tweak it, and so as the pilot, the sandbox is actually working, or the company is operating within the sandbox, to be more accurate. Then after you do all of that, of course, you're testing, evaluating, there's the reporting. You've gathered all the data, and you're going to see exactly how did it work, what were the pros and cons, what could have been done better, and then going back to the purpose of the whole sandbox, is this something that we want, right? Because you may test it, it may be great economically, but there may be environmental consequences or social consequences or governance consequences that you say, hey, no, we don't necessarily want this, or we can't handle this at this current time. So the answer is no for now, or no, full stop, right? Then after you've done that, you have, how do you, of course, if it's a no, that's the end of the story. But if it is a yes, how do we roll it out? How do we scale it, right? How do we use it? How do we put up the necessary guardrails so that if there are certain risks, they can be mitigated, and so forth, right? What are the standards that we need to create, or they need to follow, because there may be standards that exist already? What are the implications for international trade and our trade agreements, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? So within the sandbox, called a free zone or a special economic zone, we have another sandbox being put in place. So it's possible, and this is the type of thinking and type of flexibility that we need to start thinking about going forward in terms of special economic zones. So if you liked this episode, please like, share, and subscribe. If you want to see me do a particular topic, just leave me a comment down below, and I'll get right back to you. Bye for now.